Hey guys, today I'm going to be reviewing House of the Dragon Season 2, Episode 6, Smallfolk. So, as always, I'm going to be heading right into spoilers with this show, but that being said, I have not read the original source material, Fire and Blood by George R.R. Martin. I've not read that, so I'm definitely not going to have any sort of spoilers, like book-related spoilers, if anybody is worried about that. Now, yes, I have definitely been spoiled about certain things to come, but yeah, I am most certainly not going to be doing any spoiling in this particular video other than what the show has given us. So let's get going, you guys. Overall, another really good episode, in my opinion. Again, a lot of people have been really bitching and griping and complaining about the slower nature of these last couple episodes, but again, that honestly does not bother me in particular. I enjoy people just sitting around tables and talking, plotting, maneuvering. That's my cup of tea, so it's not really bothering me at all, because I'm sure once we get to some of the big action epic set pieces, all this stuff that is slower, it will be much more satisfying, I think. So yeah, what's happening at the start of this episode? We finally get to see Jason Lannister. You guys, I feel like it's been forever since we've seen Jason Lannister. The last time we saw him was back somewhere in season 1. I can't remember the last. Was it the episode with the deer hunt? I can't remember. I feel like that's the last time we saw him. So it's been a while since we've seen Jason Lannister. And he's arriving with the Lannister army, you guys, which was so badass. I just love seeing all of these guys on horseback with the Lannister coat of arms and seeing, you know, the lion on their clothing and their weaponry and whatnot. It was just so nice to be with the Lannisters and see the full force of the Lannister army. So yeah, Jason Lannister and his army, they're arriving at the Golden Tooth. And of course, that guy with the golden tooth is like, we don't really want you here. Why are you here? And they're definitely really reluctant. You know, they just kind of want to be out of this. It feels like, but yeah, the Lannisters are pushing their way on in, and Jason Lannister is saying, "Hey, I need you to send a raven to King's Landing, and basically demands that we'll start marching wherever." The Greens want us once Aemond and Vhagar join us. So Jason Lannister, he's kind of trying to push himself up there a little bit, like, you know, I'm not going to be ordered around by anyone until they get off their high chairs and come down here and help us. You know, we're not going to sit and risk our lives. We all know what happened at the Battle of Rook's Rest, and all it took was Aemond and Vhagar to just wipe out hundreds upon hundreds of people, and it's over and done with, you know? So we move from that scene, which I loved. Again, I love that whole opening. For some reason, we have a random lion. I think the random lion, the caged lion, I think that was there just mostly as a thing of a threat. Like, hey, you mess with us, we're gonna release the beast. So yeah, we move from that. And after the demand, send the raven to Aemond, we see Aemond's irritation, like, what the hell? I am not going to be bossed around by anybody. I'm the Prince Regent now, do not boss me around. So he's very irritated by the Lannister demand. So he takes that anger and frustration out on Tywin Lannister, and he wants Tywin to get out of there and go make an alliance with the Triarchy. And of course everyone at the small council is like, oh, we shouldn't do that. It seems a little too dangerous. The Triarchy, it seems like, to my understanding, the Triarchy are just really unpredictable, and as they say, they're pirates and mercenaries, and you can't really totally trust them. But at the same time, it's like, they've got to do something, because there's this blockade, which, even though the blockade was done under Rhaenyra, it's like, they've got to do something to break the blockade, because they desperately need food to come in. Because as we see, as this episode just escalates, the Smallfolk have had enough, because they are starving. So it's like, you kind of understand Aemond's reasoning for wanting to go deal with the Triarchy. And I mean, that's kind of the whole thing with Aemond, with these small council scenes. It's like, he is the far better equipped brother, you know? He knows that action needs to be taken, but the problem with Aemond is that he's very reckless and impatient, which are definitely traits of his Uncle Daemon, obviously, you know? So yeah, even though Aemond, I definitely feel like he is the better equipped brother, but yeah, it's his impatience, it's his kind of him getting a bit arrogant now at this point, and his his overreaching, I believe, and yeah, he is overreaching, I think, and that's going to get them in trouble. He's not really thinking totally 100% rationally. He just wants to kind of head right off into business, right off into action, damn the consequences, which so far has kind of been working for Team Green, to be quite honest. Them just kind of rushing off into doing things has kind of been working for them, because in the meantime, Team Black hasn't done shit, you guys. Every time they try to do something, it don't ever work. They've been failing quite miserably, which is a shame. There's even mention at one point, there's a suggestion that, oh, hey, the Greyjoys, if we want the Greyjoys on our side, let's marry off Queen Alicent to one of the Greyjoys. And of course, Alicent is like, oh, hell no, we ain't doing that. Next question, let's move on. And yeah, it was nice to get a little shout out to the Greyjoys. Kind of what are the Greyjoys doing at this moment? Because it definitely seems like the Greyjoys are stalling. Like, they're trying to wait and see which side should we join, which is going to be the side that's more beneficial to us. And Aemon is just sending people off left and right. It's like, I'm not quite sure entirely what he's kind of doing, but it's like he's trying to get rid of everybody that's going to be any sort of voice against him, you know? It's like he has all this power now, and it's like, I'm gonna do what the hell I want. And like, even Kristen Cole kind of mentions something at one point, and then Aemon's next immediate reaction is like, well, you know what, Kristen Cole, I'm going to send you off to Harrenhal. We need to finally take a Harrenhal. Enough bullshitting and whatnot. So even Kristen Cole is kind of down there like, and we have this great line of dialogue where they're bringing up, you know, Harrenhal, and yeah, we need to do something against Daemon right now, because he doesn't really have an army. Daemon has no army at the moment, so it's like, let's work against him while he doesn't. And I like this whole line of dialogue that Aemon says, my uncle is a challenge. My uncle is a challenge I welcome if he dares face me. Ooh, yes. Seriously, I can't wait for Daemon and Aemon to just face it out. I'm sure it's not going to have a happy ending. I'm sure they're both going to die miserably somehow. I'm just predicting that. And then once he dismisses the small council, then he dismisses Alicent. You guys, he does say to Alicent, you know, you ruled wisely and wonderfully, you know, during Viserys' reign when he was ill and dying and whatnot. You did all that capably, but now I don't need you, Mom. It's Aemon basically saying, hey, I'm a grown-ass man now. I don't need you hovering over me, and I don't want your advice. And he doesn't see her role and function anymore at all, which is a shame, because she knows how to rule in her own way. Again, she was capable during Viserys' time. They still had peace. You know, there was no craziness while she was ruling, while Viserys was ill and dying, you know? So, yeah, the fact that Aemon's getting rid of her, ooh, definitely probably a mistake. And again, we have some wonderful lines of dialogue here as Alicent just gets right up in his face and really stares at him, you know, forcing him to look her in the eyes. And yeah, she even touches his face. You know, she's touching his face, which is probably the most motherly thing she's ever done for him. Through Ewan Mitchell's performance, you know, he just has the one eye that he's working with, but just through that one eye alone that he's working with, it's like you can see how much Aemond he's just absolutely craving that simple touch of affection, and his mother downright looking at him for once. You know, it's like he's totally craving that and wanting that, but it's like he's still trying. He puts that mask right back on. You know, he puts the mask right back on and totally dismisses her. And I love this conversation here, because she's saying, you have the impetulance of youth and its arrogance. Have the indignities of your childhood not been sufficiently been avenged? Ooh, no, they've not been avenged. Because Aemon's the type of character, he doesn't forgive and forget, you know. He has a very difficult time forgiving and forgetting, it seems, and him taking charge of the small council and being regent now, this is his way of taking back some sort of control, it seems like, and being a bully. He was so terribly bullied as a child. It's like now he's like relishing this opportunity to be a bully back at the people who've always been a bully to him, you know? So it's very fascinating. So we move over to Team Black. We see Corlys as the new hand of the queen. And, you know, I really thought we were going to get some nice moments with Corlys in this episode, but all he does is he just kind of stands there and he has the pen, but we don't actually see him give any really good advice about anything, which was kind of a shame. Corliss, seriously, I need more Corliss. So what we get into with this scene just immediately from the get-go, as Jace and Rhaenyra were talking about at the end of last week's episode, they realize they need more dragon riders, obviously, because how the hell are they going to kill Vhagar at this point if they don't have a team of dragons to go all at once at Vhagar, you know? That's the only way I see Vhagar being taken out. All of the dragons need to take out Vhagar. So they were talking about we need people with Targaryen blood in them. Hopefully they can get on these dragons. So one of the first candidates here, we see Sir Stephen Darklyn, the guy that went down to King's Landing in episode 3 with Rhaenyra. She is telling Sir Darklyn, hey, a while back your family kind of got married into the Targaryens and blah blah blah, so we think you have some Targaryen blood within you, so I'm going to offer you a dragon and see if you can get on this dragon. And she does say, hey, she's honest about it, at least, you know, there's a chance this might not work and you could lose your life in the process. And Sir Darklyn, it's like, you gotta admire his bravery. You know, he is being very brave and very loyal in this moment. So we'll come back to that. We don't get right into him taking sea smoke just yet, so we'll kind of get back to that here in a bit. And yeah, just it does not go well. So yeah, we go to Daemon in Harrenhal. Daemon, who is still continuing to have his very torturous dreams. And you guys, we get Viserys. Finally, Dream Viserys. And I totally predicted this last week because I was hoping Viserys would pop up, but I didn't expect Viserys to pop up like in this episode. I seriously thought Viserys would pop up. If Daemon is going to continue to be stuck here in Harrenhal, I just kind of assumed Viserys would pop up maybe like in next week's episode. Maybe not so much the finale, because I feel like Daemon will be back to his usual self in the finale. So I just assumed Viserys would be in the, episode 7. So I was kind of surprised about that, but still, I was really happy to see Viserys. And really, what this first interaction with Viserys and Daemon is, it's just an absolute repeat of the conversation they had at the end of episode 1, I think, the very end of episode 1 or the beginning of 2, I can't quite remember, where, you know, Emma and his newborn son have just died, and Daemon goes off to the whorehouse, and he says something, you know, that about, you know, being a prince for a day or whatever, but did he really say that? And that whole conversation, Viserys is asking, did you really say that about my dead son? And Daemon never said yes or no to the question. So it plays out the exact same way here. And Viserys, it's the exact same lines of dialogue pretty much, just shot in a different way, because it's a complete far back shot. It never really has a close up on Viserys at all. It's mostly focused on Daemon and Matt Smith. Seriously, Matt Smith did such a wonderful job here with this sequence as he's slowly walking towards the throne and he's reliving this entire conversation again. And I think understanding this is the point where it went wrong for me. Had he not gone to the whorehouse and maybe not said what he said, you know, he would have still been on Viserys' good side, and he would have still possibly been Viserys' heir, you know. So that's the whole point of the scene, you know. This is the moment it went wrong for him, unfortunately, where he went wrong, where he's having regrets now, like, if I had played it differently, if I had said something differently, we might not be in this predicament that we're in right now. And again, Matt Smith's performance, because Daemon isn't a character that's prone to tears or prone to crying or anything, but yeah, these interactions with Viserys are what finally kind of do him in that. Yeah, Matt Smith, you can see the tears welling up in his eyes, and it was just so beautiful to watch. So then again, he's awoken by Sir Simon Strong. Seriously, I get a kick and a joy every time Simon Strong wakes up Daemon. I love it. Daemon just immediately goes into attack mode, and he grabs Simon Strong, and he's putting that knife up to his face, and he's all up in his face, and it's really terrifying. I genuinely thought he was about to kill Simon Strong. I was about to be like, oh, no, don't do that, Daemon. That's the last thing you need right now. And yeah, he's accusing Simon Strong song of, you know, like, what the hell is going on here? What is going on with me? Are you behind this? Are you poisoning me? Is someone in your employ poisoning me? Are you a secret supporter of Team Green? Not only that, but a supporter of Laris, even though you told me you don't support Laris. And then he even throws Rhaenyra in there. Like, he's so suspicious even of Rhaenyra at this point. Like, is Rhaenyra doing something to me because she's so pissed off at me that she's telling Simon Strong to do something, you know? So Damon has had enough at this point. So we see him, he takes off and he runs into Alice. Out by the weirwood tree thing, and I thought all this was beautiful. I like the design of this weirwood tree area, and then you can see Caraxes over off on like a little hill. And during the entire sequence, I love the sound design of this whole sequence, because while Alice and Damon are having a conversation, you can hear Caraxes over there off to the side and making little noises. It was really cute. I loved it. So Damon has had enough, as I said, and he's like, I'm getting the hell out of here. Where he's going, I don't know, but he's leaving. And Alice is, because the thing is with Alice, I think Alice, she needs him to stay put, you know? I think it's pretty obvious that Alice is behind the scenes doing stuff and manipulating Damon, but for what reason is the question. Is it good? Is it nefarious? I'm very suspicious if it's much more nefarious, you know, because Alice presents herself in a way that she's kind of normal and average, and but is there more, you know? Is she a crazy dark witch that we're not aware of, you know? So Alice is trying to keep him back in place, and yet even saying, you know, when things get rough and complicated for you, your first instinct is to run, which is what he does, because he doesn't like confrontation. And she's saying to him, you know, there's older things in this world than you and me. You are not a player, but a piece on the board. Yeah, basically trying to kind of belittle him almost, like, because Damon has been acting so high and mighty and ordering things about and demanding things and treating people a certain way, thinking he's the one in charge, and Alice is kind of laying it out for him, like, yeah, there's a lot more going on in this world than just you, me, Rhaenyra, Team Green, you know. There's so much more going on at play that we are not aware of. And things are going to be as they're going to be, you know. I think kind of this suggestion of fate and destiny, you know. And again, we see Damon going off about, you know, I should have been Viserys's heir, this and that. Rhaenyra never even wanted it. And Alice again is like, well, you know, the people who don't want power, a lot of times those are the types of people that actually need to be in power. Yeah, going back to like Jon Snow from Game of Thrones, for instance, you know, Jon Snow never really particularly wanted any role of leadership, but people always came to him for that leadership, and yet Jon Snow was the better leader, you know. He wasn't seeking fame and fortune and glory at all. Whereas like here on this show, like characters like Daemon and Aemond, they're the total opposite, you know. They are seeking attention and fame and glory, and yeah, to rule. And Alice is saying to him again, you know, the crown is not a prize but a burden to bear. Very Shakespearean, you know. What is it? Is it Shakespeare's King Henry the Fourth, part 1 or 2? I can't remember the whole line of heavy is the head that wears the crown, you know. That's essentially what she's trying to express to Damon in her own way. And finally they sit down. Damon finally kind of just calms down and relaxes, and he is open and honest with her in this moment, and he's like, hey, I really need your counsel. And she kind of plays with it like, oh, Daemon Targaryen needs help. And he's like, I don't need help, I need counsel. He needs to know what to do with the River Lords, because he royally fucked that up in the last episode with the River Lords and totally turned the River Lords against him. And Alice, as usual, is always very cryptic, and she just says something about, oh, give it three days and then the winds will shift. And we definitely see what transpires. Okay, so let's move back over to Sir Darklyn, you guys, the taming of Sea Smoke. And let's just say it doesn't go well. I think this was probably going to be the most predictable thing that happened in the episode. Like, of course, he wasn't going to be able to tame Sea Smoke, because they kept going on that he had some Targaryen in him, but I kept thinking, I don't think it's enough. You know, I think the Targaryen blood in him has just been way too diluted. So yeah, sure enough, if things start off well, and, you know, you have the dragon trainers off to the side, and Sir Darklyn just keeps kind of nudging up there, and Sea Smoke does put his head down, you know, like, okay, you can get on my saddle. but then it's like it shifts so quickly, and yeah, that bond, it's like Sea Smoke's not getting that bond, you know. And yes, Sir Darkland, at first he's like super happy and excited, like, oh, it worked, it actually worked, I can't believe it worked. And then Sea Smoke is like, nope, burn. Oh my god, you guys, Sir Darkland. And it just seems so pointless now, because Sir Darkland, he was a vital, integral figure for Team Black, you know. He was a strong military mind and a presence, and now she's lost a huge important person on her council, and it seems almost like a waste. Like, oh, what was the point of that? Because we need him now, you know. He's no use to us, obviously, as a dead, burnt crisp. So, attempt number one with the dragons did not go well. Alas for poor Sir Stefan Darkland. So after we get that really dramatic, intense scene, which, by the way, you guys, I was watching that entire scene because I wasn't sure what was going to happen. I had to keep covering my eyes. I kept covering my eyes because I didn't know if Sea Smoke was going to like lean down and like bend down and like rip off Sir Darkland's head, or if, because he had his arm outreached too, I didn't know if his arm was going to get torn off. So I thought it was going to be much more gory and graphic, like bloody. But thank God it was just fire, which I can deal with people getting caught on fire because it's nowhere near as graphic. But yeah, the whole time I was like, oh god, this is too intense for me. I just kept covering my eyes. But yeah, like I said, let's move on from that. We have a nice scene with Corlys and Alan. We get quite a bit of Alan and Adam in this episode, which I appreciated, because so far they've kind of just been off in the background, not really doing too terribly much of anything. And Corlys approaches Alan, and he's wanting Alan to sail with him and be his first mate. And Alan is very, very reluctant, and he doesn't really want this at all, but he does reluctantly accept by the end of the conversation. But boy, oh boy, he does not look happy about it at all. And yeah, we've gotten the idea that Alan and Adam are bastard sons of Corlys. And we'll kind of talk about this more as I kind of get to some of their other scenes. But yeah, Adam definitely feels a certain way about it compared to how Alan feels about it, which is very interesting. So we leave that scene and we go to a bar down in the bowels of King's Landing. And we see Madame Sylvie, and she's sitting there in the bar, and Ulf is there, Diana is there, and there's like a small scattering of some other people in that room. And we start to see Mysaria's plan of action coming into play here. The use of propaganda, the use of spreading lies and rumors. Because Madame Sylvie, she's sitting there in the bar, and she's definitely trying to stir up some unrest by mentioning the fact that, you know, up in the castle, the grand lords and ladies, they're all having like some great parties to host the fact that, you know, Aemond is the new Prince Regent and whatnot, and they're up there having a great time and eating and drinking and chilling and relaxing while they're all down here suffering and starving. Feasting and merriment is how she puts it, feasting and merriment. And yeah, there's another party that they're having tonight. Oh my god, how dare they? And yeah, Ulf is down there even saying, you know, Viserys had his parties as well, but he never would rub it in our faces when we were like in times of need. So yeah, definitely this idea, the people, they loved Viserys, you know. He was a better king in some ways, and he led them through peace and kept the peace. And I'm very curious, because we don't see a party happen at all with Team Green. We don't ever see Aemond drinking, having a party, nothing like that. If anything, Aemond does not strike me as a party type, because he's much more of an introvert. You know, I've always gotten the impression Aemond is much more of an introvert, and yeah, he likes reading and learning things. That's why he is kind of the better capable ruler, you know. So I think this was definitely a big, huge lie set up by Mysaria. Because we saw Alinda go to Diana, and I think the two of them had a conversation, and they went to Sylvie, because I think it's very well known that Aemond sleeps around and pays Sylvie, you know. So I think the three of them and probably some other people got together and were like, okay, let's come up with something that we need to say out in public, you know. So that being, oh, they're up there having parties, whether it's true or not, you know, because that's just it. I think her sitting there saying, oh, they're up there having parties, I think that's a lie. Yes, they have food, but they're not up there partying. You know, they are most certainly not up there partying, especially with Aegon in the state that he's in. So it's definitely just a thing of just coming up with lies. It doesn't matter whether they're true or not. It's part of the propaganda to stir up chaos, to stir up unrest, and yeah, it works. So we go back to Rhaenyra after the Sir Darkland incident, and Lord Bartimos, the dude just needs to learn to shut up, because he's just sitting there talking away about stuff, and Rhaenyra, just out of frustration, she just slaps Lord Bartimos, you guys, which is kind of satisfying that she slapped him. And he's stunned and shocked, and yeah, everybody else around him is really stunned and shocked. Yes, it was satisfying for us to see her slap him, but at the same time, it's like, she probably shouldn't have done that. She probably should have shown some restraint. But yeah, she does say to him, I can't remember how she words it exactly, like, it's my fault that you don't fear me. Because he's talking very openly and freely to her, and just kind of voicing out his opinions, and yeah, there's not really any sense of respect there. And again, part of Rhaenyra's frustration that she feels like her council doesn't respect her. They just kind of say whatever they want and however they want to say it, and it's like, I am still your queen. You should be talking to me and treating me a certain way. You have no will here to speak as freely as you want to. So yeah, she just slaps him. And then we move into kind of the next scene, kind of after that, her still being frustrated, and we see her picking up a sword, like, this is what I should have been doing this entire time, is picking up a sword and training how to use it and going out there and fighting, but yeah, knowing that she can't, because if she dies, their whole cause is lost. And yeah, she's very frustrated by the failed attempt with Sir Darkland. Not only did she lose a good ally and supporter, but yeah, just he just died. Their idea and plan to use dragons, it didn't go as according to plan as her and Jace were hoping. And as well, even if we still try to do this and we go out there and try to find some other people with Targaryen blood, who is going to try and make this attempt now after they find out that Sir Darkland had this experience? No one else is going to want to attempt this and face the same fate. So then we move into a really quick scene with the Smallfolk, and they're all down there trying to buy their wares and some food. The food runs out, and here comes a cart full of goats. Yeah, guys, and I'm guessing the goats, because someone mentions, oh, you're going to feed your dragon with those goats. It's like, all of those goats could have fed a huge chunk of the population down there in King's Landing. Not all of them, but a good little portion of them. But yeah, those goats are going to Vhagar, I'm assuming. Vhagar is their weapon of war, essentially, and she needs to be kept full, so when they do go out and try to treat with Team Black, obviously. So it's like, it's like Vhagar needs goats, but the people need goats. It's like everybody needs the goats, damn it. So then we go back to another small council meeting, and everyone's giving out the lowdown. Anger is rising down in the streets, and Aemond is still very determined on, okay, we need to get this blockade down. Why is nobody listening to me? And Larys, oh god, this was such a good scene with Larys. Larys had some good stuff going on in this episode, you guys. Larys is suggesting, hey, you need a new hand, because Cole is kind of going off doing his own thing, and yeah, Cole was Aegon's hand, your brother's hand, so you need someone who's going to represent you and your cause. And the way, I loved how this was kind of worded, because the way Aemond says it, it's almost implying like, okay, Lord Larys, you could be my hand, but he does that on purpose. Once again, Aemond is relishing being a bully during all these small council scenes. The fact that he was bullied all those years, it's like he is loving being the one in charge now. And I think he words it a specific way to make Larys think, oh, Larys, you're going to be my new hand. He does it to be a bully and to be cruel and to be mean. And yeah, Larys is like, oh, sir, thank you. I'm glad to take the honor. And then Aemon's like, no, you idiot. I love that whole thing. And Aemond is like, I want you to go get Otto Hightower. And so that's strike number 2 that Aemond has done well, I think, but had some sort of common sense, because yeah, taking down the rat catchers last episode was definitely a good thing. And yeah, the fact that he knows he needs Otto Hightower, another good thing, so it's like Aemond knows what the good things are, but he's also kind of struggling with other things too. It's like, now that he's in power, it's like he still is going through a learning curve. And then poor Larys is embarrassed, obviously, and Master Orwell comes running in, and he's saying that Aegon has gained some consciousness. He keeps going in and out of consciousness, and yeah, you gotta love Aemond over there, like, oh, what happy news. So we do move over to Aegon, and oh Lord, this was pretty. It wasn't graphic in like a really really horribly graphic way, but still, it's just the sound effects. I love the sound design on this show because as they're sitting there replacing his bandages, it's just making such a icky, gooky, nasty noise, and Aemond does walk in during this whole thing after Aegon's been kind of cleaned up and I guess getting some new bandages and whatnot. Aemond walks in to see the state of Aegon, and the first thing he asks him, obviously, is, "What do you remember?" And Aegon definitely looks terrified. I mean, he's already in pain. He's probably confused about what has happened, but I think he does remember. He says he doesn't remember anything. He says nothing. I remember nothing. But I think he does. The fact that he is pretty, it's a really great performance by Tom Glenn Carney because he's doing so much with just his eyes. His eyes and kind of the subtle body language that he's using. Like I think he's definitely lying that he doesn't remember anything. I think he does. He seems to be very terrified of Aemond and what Aemond's capable of, and I think he's kind of even thinking in that moment, like, we are, is Aemond coming in here to finish the job? And Aemond, he sits on the bed and he leans forward and he has one of the balls from the small council in his hand, and he sits and puts it on Aegon's chest, and he kind of digs it in pretty roughly because it's hurting Aegon. It's definitely hurting him, and then he leans over and he just gives Aegon a kiss on the head. I don't know if that was for show. I'm very curious if the kiss was for show, or if he kind of meant it in his own twisted sort of way, like his own twisted version of affection. I honestly do not know. Yeah, was he leaning over with the intent of pushing that ball like deeper and deeper into Aegon's chest? I'm very curious because then yeah, he's interrupted. I think Maester Orwell comes back in. I can't remember. So that whole thing is kind of cut short, and he leaves the ball behind. And at first, I couldn't really think what does that ball mean. I had a difficult time kind of trying to figure out the symbolism of it, but I guess with the symbolism of Aemond leaving that ball behind for Aegon, I think it's basically a thing of messing with him and toying with him, like, whenever you're ready to finally get out of this bed, if you ever even get out of this bed, come and face me and come take your place back at the council, as king. I dare you to. It's a dare. I think it's a dare, and I think it's a threat. Like, do you want to face me? Because I will try and kill you again if you do get out of this bed. I don't know. I think there's a lot going on in that scene, and I just love Ewan Mitchell and Tom Glenn Carney together. You guys, their scenes are just always so great. They have such great chemistry as brothers together. This whole love-hate dynamic, it's fascinating. Seriously, at this point, me watching the show, I am just totally here. It's like I'm usually Team Black, but it's like Team Green are the far more interesting, compelling characters, and it's like at this point I'm like Team Aegon and Team Aemond at this point. Can they rule together? If Aegon and Aemond can just rule together, it'd be great. So let's move to the Eyrie, the Vale, and we get a quick scene with Rhaena and Joffrey, and they're kind of just out walking around, and Joffrey's really sad. He wants to see his mom and his siblings, obviously, and Rhaena is just kind of sitting there telling him, some of us, we serve in smaller ways. It's like she's trying to give him a pep talk about why he's being a certain way, but it's also kind of a pep talk for herself, because she wants to do so much more. And while they're out there just roaming around, that's when they see like this field that's been burnt, and there's like a bunch of like dead sheep and goats out there, and we move into the next scene. And by the way, we get a little baby dragon. You guys, we see the little kids, and there's like a little baby dragon there. I love seeing a baby dragon. We've not seen a little baby dragon since like season 1 and 2 of Game of Thrones. So I love seeing the little baby dragon. And when Lady Jane Eyre walks into the room, that's when Rhaena is basically accusing Lady Jane, hey, you've been lying to me. There's clearly a much larger, bigger dragon out here running around in the Vale that you're not telling me about, but you had the nerve to bitch and gripe at me in the previous episode that my small dragons are no use to you, but you clearly have a big dragon, So yeah, she's accusing Lady Jane of lying to her and being duplicitous and manipulating her, I suppose. And yeah, Lady Jane, she's just so cool and calm and casual. She's like, yeah, sure, I've been lying to you. There's definitely a bigger dragon. So is this going to be Rhaena's dragon? Because we know Rhaena has been struggling for years and years trying to get a dragon. So is this going to possibly be Rhaena's dragon? And yeah, it sounds like it's a big dragon too. And yeah, Team Black needs a big dragon. And yeah, before we end this scene, Lady Jane does mention Prince Reggio off over in Pentos. He has prepared to receive Rhaena and the rest of Rhaenyra's children. So that's going to be a thing of, are they all going to go to Pentos? I have a feeling, this is my prediction, I think Rhaena is going to get this dragon, and yeah, she's going to send off all the other children to Pentos. So let's move back on over to Adam and Alan. We see Alan over there shaving his head, and he definitely has like white fuzz on his head. For whatever reason, I'm kind of confused about this. Maybe I just don't understand genetics. Maybe that's my problem, but it's like, why does Alan have the white Valarian hair, but Adam doesn't? Because they're definitely brothers, but do they not have the same mother? Possibly, perhaps. Do they have the same mother? They've not really kind of gone into that if they have the same mother, because they obviously have the same father with Corlys. But yeah, it's just interesting that Alan has the white fuzz, like the Valarians, but Adam does not. So we see Alan over there shaving all that off. It's like he's trying to hide his true identity. It's like he knows anybody with white hair, you're a target. And Adam is very irritated that Alan is being so reluctant to join Corlys. And yeah, they're downright making it known, yeah, we are his bastard children and this and that. And yeah, Adam is saying, this is an honor and a privilege and you should accept this and be happy with it, because at least he is focused on you. But yeah, he ignores me. He ignores me, and he doesn't do anything to me. He doesn't really even talk to me. It's just so fascinating how Corlys treats the one over the other. I'm very curious why he does that. Once again, I'm just not sure of the dynamics of the relationship. We definitely need to explore that more, I think. It's like, I like the parallel of Adam and Alan, weirdly enough, to like Baela and Rhaena, because poor Rhaena got sent away because she didn't have a dragon, but because Baela has a dragon, she's more useful. So it's kind of this similar sort of thing, weirdly enough, with Adam and Alan. How Adam feels Alan is being treated over him. So we move on. We see Jace approach Rhaenyra. He's applauding the bold attempt that they made, but that they should still keep it going. And he's asking about the fact that Rhaenyra struck Lord Bartimos. And yeah, she's talking to him about her frustrations, like how he treats her, and he's treating her more like, like a wife or a daughter or a mother or something, rather than his queen. And again, as she kind of keeps repeating over and over, she wants to be feared. She doesn't want to be overprotected. And Jace is still on the train of, we need Daemon. For God's sake, listen to Jace. You definitely need Daemon to come back. It's like, that's what everybody has been saying all season. You need Daemon. It's like, go there, get Daemon out of his hissy fit, and bring him back. Even if you have to drag him away screaming, do it. And yeah, Jace is speaking some hard truth here. We need Daemon back, and plus, our armies, we don't match the size of the green armies, which is absolutely true. So it's here that Mysaria walks up and she's saying, oh, our gift has been delivered, and Rhaenyra's like, oh yes. But then poor Jace, I hated this moment with Rhaenyra and Jace, because Jace is like, oh, what gift? And Rhaenyra doesn't even tell him. You guys, that was a wrong move right there. Rhaenyra has been really open and honest with a lot of things with Jace, and I think it's a big, huge shame and a mistake that she didn't inform him of what she was doing here with the gift, because he definitely walks away feeling really disappointed. So we see what the gift is, and it's these little ships full of tons of food, and they're just kind of washing up there onto the shore of King's Landing and whatnot. There's probably, what we see on screen is about a half dozen of these things. So yeah, they're giving the people some food, and to make it even better, they have the Team Black flag, the sigil on the food. Like, hey, people of King's Landing, this is who is giving you your food. Let it be known that Rhaenyra is the one giving you food. So we move over, we see Alicent. She's watching over Aegon. She's definitely very concerned for him. And it's a shame that Aegon doesn't know how much she's looking in on him. It's so sad and unfortunate. He has no idea that she's taken all this time to be at his side and watch over him and take care of him, And Alicent is asking Master Oilwile some questions about Aegon, and he's pretty honest about it. Like, hey, his future is very uncertain. If he's going to have much of a future, because yeah, he's a mess. He's burnt. God knows if he can even have children anymore, yeah, he's barely going to be able to walk, because I'm assuming he'll be able to walk again at some point, but probably barely. And yeah, there's still no word from Otto. Alicent just keeps asking this whole episode, where the hell is Otto? Why isn't he responding to me? And yeah, Master Orwell does mention, I think it's Master Orwell, he does say House Beesbury has turned against us, especially after what Kristen Cole did to Lord Beesbury in, you know, the last season. Of course, House Beesbury's had enough. And I love just this really tender moment between Alicent and Aegon, because she just is still standing over Aegon, and she just keeps saying to him, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That's all she could do at this point. You know, that's all she can do is apologize to her children. Because, I mean, even Helena, you know, she was kind of apologizing to Helena, and Helena giving her forgiveness, you know. It's all poor Alicent can do at this point. It's upsetting and devastating that it's reached this. So we move from that to this was such a great scene, you guys, between Alicent and Gawain. It's just such a simple scene, but I loved it. It really just says a lot of kind of their relationship and how they grew up and how she raised her own children, you know. She's asking after Otto again, and Gawain's like, why would he write to me, you know? And she asks him about her son Daron, and he says, oh, he's 10 and 6 now, which I believe means 16. He's 16. And which I'm so confused about the ages of all these children, you guys. It still doesn't really make no sense to me how old all of them are. So she's asking about Daron, and Gawain, it's like Gawain knows she needs to hear something good about one of her sons because all of her other children are fucked up. So he's telling her that he's strong and nice and kind. The key word is kind. And as he's telling her this whole story, Alicent, you can just see her. She's opening up. There's a smile on her face, and it's making her feel good that, you know, at least one of my sons is normal and not doing crazy things off on the side. But yeah, he even says, have you received any letters from Daron recently? And she's like, oh, it's become less and less. And like, even with Daron, even though Daron is the best son, clearly, even that relationship is estranged, that they're not communicating as much. And Gawain has some really interesting words here talking about, you know, King's Landing, for all of its privileges and greatness and all of that, it's like it's still not the most ideal place to raise children, because it can turn people a certain way, you know. I mean, look at every single character on the show. Every single character kind of grew up here in the shadow of King's Landing, and they're all a certain way, you know. King's Landing affects everybody in different ways, but they're all still kind of similar in their own ways. And yeah, basically implying, you know, it's probably best and for the better that Daron didn't grow up here. It's best that you sent him away. Yes, it caused a huge gap and estrangement between you, but hey, that's better than him being a jackass like Aegon and Aemond. So we do see Gawain and Alicent part. Seriously, I hope Gawain does not die. This almost felt like a final conversation, you guys. Seriously, did it feel like that to anybody else? This felt like some sort of final conversation between these two, and I really hope Gawain does not die, because I like him, because he's a bit of comedic relief. But yeah, I definitely felt a lot of pity and sympathy for Alicent in this particular scene, because she was a terrible mother. You know, she knows she was a terrible mother. And you got to remember too, highborn ladies, even though this is a fantasy world, highborn ladies, even in real medieval society, highborn ladies had no say over the raising of their children. Their children were thrown off to wet nurses and nannies. And yeah, Alicent would have had no say in how her children were brought up. All she could have done is just visit them, you know, and interacted with them. So it's like you feel for her in these moments that she couldn't be a normal, real mother to her children, because yeah, she's married to the freaking king. You know, she has her own duties and responsibilities, and it's not raising her children, and that's left to other people, you know. So it's like you feel really bad for Alicent, her understanding how fucked up the situation is with her children. She can't do anything. She's totally powerless to stop what's going on with her children now. So we move over to Helena really quickly, and we see her in her room, and she says something, it's like another one of her little bugs, and she's like, oh, it stopped singing. I don't know what that means. What does that mean with the bug stop singing? Is someone dead? Someone going to die? And Helena or Alicent comes into the room. She's like, hey, let's go light a candle for Aegon and pray for him. So in the meantime, we see Hugh, and he's just walking through the streets, and this is where we start seeing all the chaos and the rioting starting, because Rhaenyra has sent in all that food, but now it's sheer chaos because everybody is trying to get their share of the food. Because even though it looked like she sent a lot of food, once again, it's probably still nowhere near the amount that they really actually need. And so people are just snatching and grabbing food, and the soldiers are trying to keep the peace as best they can. So it's just pure chaos. And yeah, we see Hugh. Hugh does grab up something to take back to his wife and daughter, thank God. But yeah, it's like, is he going to make it back? So in the meantime, Alicent and Helena, they're lighting the candle, and it's then that their soldiers are like, hey, we need to get out of here. There's some craziness going on outside. So this, oh Lord, this whole thing just escalated so quickly, guys. It was so intense. I didn't know what was going to happen. Helena and Alicent, they're going down like the stairs, and one guy throws like some raw fish at Alicent. It gets all over her, and she's like really shocked and scandalized by the whole thing. And the next thing that happens, it's like Alicent and Helena are kind of getting separated. They're getting separated from their soldiers, and at one point someone grabs Alicent's arm, and you know, the soldier was just doing his job. You know, the soldier was doing his job, and he just cuts this man's arm off, like, hey, you're touching the queen, don't you dare touch the queen. And of course Alicent is horrified by this, like, no, this is not what we need. We don't need the people to turn against us. You just cut this man's arm off. You know, you should have just tackled him to the ground, you know, not chop his arm off. And she's like, sheathe your swords, put them back, you know, don't hurt these people. But, you know, obviously, so the soldiers were terrified too. You know, they're being attacked, and their first instinct is to fight back, obviously, and it does not go well. And yeah, just about all of her guards get chopped up to death, you guys. There's only a couple of them that make it out. And yeah, her and Helena, they're just trying to make it to their carriage, and they're getting separated. And the one guy who's kind of in charge of things, it seems, played by Vincent Regan, you guys. I keep forgetting Vincent Regan is in this show because they've not really focused on him a lot, and I can't even think what his character name is on this, but he's kind of like the new Kingsguard, I think, like the head of it, the Lord Commander, I think. So yeah, we finally get a little bit more Vincent Regan in this episode. I love Vincent Regan as an actor. I've been kind of disappointed with his lack being in the show so far. So once Helena and Alicent are back in the carriage, this was such a great shot, you guys, because Alicent notices on her arm, she has a cut on her arm, and it's in the exact same location that she cut Rhaenyra back in season 1, you know, after the whole Aemond's eye incident. I don't know how many people noticed that, but I really latched onto that parallel, that the cut is in the exact same location on the arm, and I think it's just really fascinating that they did that parallel. Like, yeah, I did this to Rhaenyra years ago for causing offense with my son and whatnot, and it's like now that's coming back to haunt me, and I'm getting a similar cut on my arm, and like my mistakes are coming back to haunt me now, you know. So after all of that craziness, we have a scene that calms down, and we see Larys go to Aegon, and Aegon, he's in desperate need of some more milk of the poppy or something, but Larys is like, no, he is not getting any more. I want to have a conversation with him, and I want to give him some hard truths. And seriously, I loved this interaction with Larys and Aegon. And seriously, again, Larys had some really good moments in this episode, because a lot of times he's off to the side, you know, scheming and plotting, and it was nice to get some more emotional things from him in this episode, because he's laying out the hard truth to Aegon, you know, displaying his own disability with his foot, you know, saying, I was born this way, and I've always been mocked and bullied, and people have always stared at me. And he's basically saying to Aegon, hey, don't let your disability, don't let that be a vulnerability or a weakness. You know, use that, rise up against your disability and use it and make it a strength rather than a weakness. Because that's definitely clearly what Larys has done his entire life. You know, people have always underestimated him his entire life, and now look at him. You know, he's on the small council. He has a voice, even though he's still he's often mocked and bullied still. The thing is, it's like, well, so what? I'm on the council. That's all that matters, you know? So, yeah, that's definitely what Aegon needs to hear, you know, especially after the trauma he just got from Aemond. You know, Aegon definitely needs to hear that he needs to gather the strength to get better and put his mind to use. You know, his mind is going to be his weapon now. Okay, so we get another dream at Harrenhal with Daemon and Viserys, and this sequence is taking place right after Emma's death and the baby's death, and yeah, right before they go to the pyre to get burned. And again, it's just so interesting how they filmed all this stuff with Viserys, because you never really get a good look at Viserys in these scenes, because yeah, this entire scene just about Viserys is like in Daemon's arms the whole time, you know, and yeah, Viserys sobbing and crying, and Daemon holding him in this moment, and yeah, again, Matt Smith's incredible performance. Again, Daemon is not an emotional person, but yeah, the tears that are in Matt Smith's eyes as he's doing the scene, you know, and yeah, I love the parallel here, you guys, because earlier in the episode, Aemond leaned over and kissed Aegon on the forehead, and then in this same moment, Daemon is leaning over and kissing his brother on the head too, and I love that juxtaposition there between, I think, the intent of each brotherly kiss, brotherly affection, you know, what Aemond is kind of meaning by it versus what Daemon is meaning by it in this moment. You know, I love that parallel of the kisses. And yeah, Daemon is saying to Viserys in this sequence, you know, you needed me, I'm here now. Again, if Daemon had done things differently, you know, this is all part of his regrets. Like, if I had done things differently, if I had said things differently, if I had been with my brother in this moment, because I have a feeling Viserys was alone in this room. When he was with Emma and their child, I have a feeling Viserys was alone in this moment. And this is Daemon being like, I should have been there for my brother. So then we get Simon Strong obviously waking Daemon up, which again, I get a great joy out of every time it happens. And he announces that Grover Tully is finally dead. And now that little boy Oscar Tully is in charge, and this is what Daemon's been needing this whole time, you know, because he's really needed the Tully army on his side. And I guess it's 3 days later, because I guess this is what Alice was alluding to, is, hey, give it 3 days and the winds will shift. I guess they were just waiting for Grover Tully to die. And Simon Strong does mention that Alice went to go help and try to see if she can get him better, you know, keep him from death's door. But now I'm questioning, did Alice purposely kill Grover Tully? I'm so curious if she had a hand in that to try and speed things up for Daemon, you know, so Daemon can get his army quicker. I'm very curious what Alice's involvement with that was. And yeah, a lot of people have been speculating if Alice is really even there, if she's a ghost, because no one has actually had any sort of conversations with her. But I guess this confirms it. Simon Strong downright does say, oh, Alice Rivers, you know, he acknowledges her presence. So she's not some mystical ghost that nobody else can see other than Daemon. Simon Strong is clearly aware of her. So then we move into this super dramatic, intense scene, you guys, with Adam, who's out there on the beach, you know, minding his own business. And then here comes Sea Smoke, you guys. And Sea Smoke just goes chasing after Adam. And it's kind of this thing of why Adam? He's not bothering anybody else. So I love the intensity of the scene. And yeah, Adam is just running through the woods, trying to get cover, trying to get away, and he falls down, and then next thing Sea Smoke just lands right in front of him, and they're face to face, and it's really dramatic and really intense. What's going to happen? Is Adam going to get burnt to death? But I guess what we're led to believe, because of the whole Valorian thing, and yeah, Alan and Adam are bastard children of Corlys, I guess we're led to believe that Adam, he has enough of the dragon blood in him that Sea Smoke has been called to him, and they're going to bond. So I'm going to assume, I think rightfully, that Sea Smoke is now the dragon for Adam. Yeah, guys, and I don't think Rhaenyra's going to be too happy about that. So we end the episode with this scene with Mysaria and Rhaenyra, and Mysaria basically giving Rhaenyra an update. Hey, our plan with the gift of food, that's going according to plan. But yeah, Rhaenyra still doubts her capabilities. She's still going on, I should have been a man. She fears Daemon has turned against her, which is still just so up in the air, you know. And Mysaria finally shares more of her backstory. We've been getting teased with her backstory, and she finally lays it out in this moment with Rhaenyra's weakness, you know. She lays it out, hey, my father raped me, got me pregnant, I had an abortion, this and that. And she kind of ends the whole conversation that she believes in Rhaenyra's cause, that Rhaenyra is what the people really need at the end of the day. And of course, this is all Rhaenyra has needed, you know. She's needed some sort of words of advice and encouragement, and because she has no belief in herself at this point. I think at this point she's lost complete belief in herself. And the next thing that happens, she goes and hugs Mysaria, and then they end up kissing. Yeah, guys, good lord. And it was fine and all. I'm just not sure how I feel about the kissing between them. If they're going to have some sort of relationship, I just don't know how I feel about it, because I don't want Rhaenyra to get hurt in the process if this is just another manipulation by Massaria, you know? Because I still just don't really entirely trust Massaria at this point, because, for God's sake, back in episode 2, she was prepared to leave and head off, like, to Pentos or whatever. She was prepared to leave, and it's not until the attempted assassination on Rhaenyra's life, you know, that then she's like, oh, I'm going to use this to my advantage, and I'm going to ask you to put me on your council, you know, I'm going to manipulate the situation to my advantage. So I just feel like a lot of what's been going on with Massaria, it's all for her advantage, so I'm just not really quite sure what to think and feel about her, and what this possible kiss and relationship is, you know, if it's a manipulation, or if it's for real, you know, so I really don't know. Yeah, how is Daemon going to feel about this, you guys? If he comes back and they do start up a relationship, dear God, that's going to break my heart, because I like Rhaenyra and Daemon together, you guys. As twisted and fucked up as they are, I love them together. So in the middle of this passionate, steamy kiss, that's when they're interrupted by one of her soldiers, and he's like, hey, Sea Smoke is out and about, and he's with some other guy. So Rhaenyra's like, oh, hell no, let me go deal with this, and she just takes off. So that's how the episode ends, is with Rhaenyra taking off, and judging from the trailer for next week, she's going to have a confrontation with Adam, like, yeah, who are you to take one of my dragons? And yeah, Corlys is going to have a lot of explaining to do, because I don't think even Rhaenyra, I have a feeling Rhaenyra doesn't even know about Alan and Adam, so she's about to learn some stuff about Corlys, I feel like. Okay, you guys, that is it for this, once again, very lengthy review on House of the Dragon. In the comments below, definitely share your thoughts and feelings about this episode. Again, these slower episodes have not been bothering me. I love the deeper, intenser character interactions like this. It's just much more fun and engaging for me. That way, when we do get to the big stuff, it's important, you know. So yeah, let me know how you felt about this episode. So you guys, that's it for my review. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like this video, you may like these other videos. Bye, guys.